Hi guys, I'm Charlie Book Fanatic. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to talk to you about all of the books I managed to read during the month of March. The first book I want to talk about is actually one I DNFed, and that is the Traitor Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. This is the first book in the Cormorant series, and I got to page 38 before I DNFed this. This book has been on my TBR for the longest. It was also in my books that have been on my TBR for the longest video, and I did want to actually read it. So I got to it. And then it turned out to be quite boring. I didn't really understand it. I couldn't concentrate, so I wasn't really in the mood to read 38 pages again, and I just decided to DNF it. I don't have time to invest in books I know I won't really like anyway. So if I know on page 38 that I'm not really invested, I'm just going to DNF it at this point. Aside from that, I have read quite a few good books this past month, so I don't feel bad about this one. I'm just going to move straight on through with the next book, which I actually rated 2 stars, and I don't know why I'm surprised about that, but that is Blackfish City by Sam J. Miller. I've read a book before by Sam J. Miller, The Art of Starving, which was about an anorexic boy, and I also rated that one 2 stars. I think Miller has some good ideas in his stories, but I think he doesn't execute them very well. I think I just don't click with his writing style. I don't really like it. It was a very weird story, this one. It was about this woman who was called an Orcomancer, and she had 4 of these different people that were going to start a rebellion against this government type thing, and I thought that was a cool premise, but how this was all connected, how all of these 4 people were connected, and it was just weird. I didn't get it. I really didn't, and the ending of this book was also super weird. It didn't do anything for me. I did like the premise of the story. I thought it could have had some real potential, but in the end it didn't, and I thought it was okay. I rated it 2 stars just for that potential, honestly, because the writing style, the characters, nothing really clicks for me. The world building was kind of cool. I liked the world. It was set in the Arctic Circle on like a floating city. It sounds cool, it was cool, but the rest of the story elements just didn't really connect for me. Then for my 3-star reads, the next one is Crystal Storm, which is the 5th book in the Fallen Kingdom series by Rhodes. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I don't really like the Fallen Kingdom series, but I actually rated this one 3 stars. I liked it, I thought it was okay. It's probably one of the best books in the series I've read so far, aside from the first one I did like and why I continued on with the series in the first place. So I have some kind of hope for the last book in the series, the 6th one, but I am not going to set my standards too high because I probably will be disappointed since I didn't really like any of the other books in this series. And the 4th one seems to be really well loved, and I didn't like that one at all. So I will see how that goes from here. But yeah, this 5th book in the series was quite a good installment. I kind of like the characters, didn't hate them too much. I'm still not a huge fan of Magnus. I still think he's a whiny character, and I still can't get over the fact that he fell in love with his sister in the first book. It doesn't really, I don't get it. I really don't, because he thought she was his actual sister, and obviously she is not his actual sister, because it's a YA book, the author wouldn't take that risk, but it's, even if she in the end didn't really was his sister, it's still kind of weird that he fell in love with her. That shouldn't have happened. I can't get over it. I also don't get the whole romance thing between Cleo and Magnus, what this whole series is being advertised for. They don't have any chemistry at all. Magnus did some really shitty things to Cleo. He killed some people she loved, and I don't get how she could get over that. I really don't. I don't get how you can fall in love with someone who murdered your loved ones. The next book I want to talk about is Leviathan, which is the first book in the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. This is the first book in a very long series, and I thought I would really like it. It's a space opera. Space opera is really up my alley. I especially like The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which is also a space opera and very character focused. This is the same thing. It's a space opera that was very character focused, and it was so slow for me. It was super slow paced. This was obviously a world building book and a setup for us to meet the characters, but I didn't really care for the characters a lot. Like, they were fun to read about, but what I like in sci-fi is a space setting, the characters, and those books are mostly action-packed most of the time. Like, there's some sort of action-packed element in there, and this one just didn't really have it. Like, there was a space battle, but that was literally it. There was, in this entire gigantic book, that was all there was to it. I mean, the characters were fine. There wasn't really any one character that stood out to me. Well, there was one. He was pretty cool, but he was also kind of morally grey, which I think is a good thing in characters, but in the end, he didn't stand out to me too much. So I rated 3 stars. I liked it, but I would not continue on with this series, if I'm being honest, because I thought this first book was too boring for me to want to continue on with the series. Then my last 3-star read was The Goal, which is the 4th and final book in the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. I like the first book in this series so much, which is why I really want to read this new adult series, and this 4th book was just okay. I liked it, I did, but eventually it just gets old, and I expect like every new adult book to be like the summer series by CJ Duggan, and I really thought this was going to be my new summer series, and it wasn't. It really wasn't. It's done now. I'm glad it's done. I'm not going to continue on with the spin-off for this series. It's okay for me. I'm glad I finished the series. I liked it more than enough, but no, I don't need to read more from this world, from these characters. They were all a little bit too slutty for me. I don't know, there wasn't enough difference between the characters. They were all the same kind of person to me, if I'm being honest, but just different family histories and a different background, but their personalities were all basically the same. And every single book follows their romance with a different girl, and all of those stories also kind of sound the same to me, except for in this book, the plot device that was added was the whole pregnancy element, and I didn't like how that was handled, to be honest. Sabrina, the female love interest, was just way too closed off. She didn't trust Tucker, the male main character in this. I get why Tucker would want to be involved with this child, but I don't get why he fell in love with Sabrina, because she let herself open up to him not enough times for him to actually know her and fall in love with her. He might have been intrigued by her, but really fall in love with her, I don't see it, because she was a little bit too bitchy, a little bit too mean most of the time, while Tucker was trying very hard to be nice to her. I really don't get that kind of trope, how a guy can fall in love with someone who is just being rude to him all of the time. Then lastly, I want to talk about my 4-star books. The first one is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. This is the 3rd book in this series. I don't know how many books are going to be in this series. I think 4. I really, really like this one. I think this is probably one of my favorite books in the series. I especially liked a certain scene set in an asylum. I thought it was very intriguing. I really care for all of these characters. I want to know what happens to them, and I want to know if Libba Bray is taking the risk of killing off some of these characters, which I would be very sad about in the next book. I was definitely scared for their safety in this book, so I want to continue with this series. I probably want to read more about Libba Bray after I finish this series, because I like her writing style. I like how she describes the paranormal and magic in this book, and also the historical fiction setting in the 1920s is so cool. And I would love to read some more books set in the 1920s, but Libba Bray manages to make a YA novel actually creepy with some of the horror elements she inserts, and I'm constantly on the edge of my seat while reading these books because I want to know what is going to happen next. The last book I want to talk about is also a 4-star read, and that is Warcross, which is the first book in the Warcross trilogy, I have no clue, by Marie Lu. Marie Lu is one of my favorite authors. I really like her, and I definitely want to pick up the first book in her new series, and this is about Emika Chen, who gets taken to Tokyo by the creator of this game called Warcross to become a spy for him in this game, and it all takes off from there. And what I didn't like about this book, I'll say first, and why I rated 4 stars, was kind of the romance in this. The romance is kind of rushed and not really understandable. I don't get why Hideo, the creator of Warcross, was disinterested in Emika. I get why he was interested in her professionally, but romantically they really didn't know each other. There wasn't anything special to Emika why he would invite her to go out with him to dinner, like on his own private rooftop. They barely knew each other at that point in time, and I just didn't get why a rich as fuck dude who created this own game would invite a really poor girl to just dine with him on his private rooftop. I would definitely suspect she would have had like ulterior motives, if I'm being honest, especially if I was super rich and just didn't know this girl at all and just decided to randomly date her and fall in love with her. Dale was a very mysterious character, which I liked. There was a plot twist in here, I guess, but along with that plot twist came a plot twist I didn't guess, so it was definitely unpredictable in some way for me, which I really liked, and I cannot wait to see after this ending how the series is going to go on. As you can see, I also have some tabs in here. There were some quotes I really liked, which I won't read to you because they are kind of spoilery, because they are like kind of in the middle of the book, as you can see. So I really like this book. I want to continue on with this series. I don't like this cover, and I do hope that at some point they're getting a cover change. Or if they create, like when they create a design for the next book, I hope it really matches this one. Even though I don't really see how they're going to do that. Well, the next book is called Wildcard, so it should fit in this kind of pattern, but it would have to look really alike, and I don't think they're going to do that. So I don't know how they're going to match this rainbow cover, but I guess we'll see. I do really kind of like the spine though in this rainbow thingy, but aside from me not really liking the cover, this book was really good. I would really recommend it. And yeah, this was probably my favorite book of the entire month. So these were the books I managed to read in March. Let me know down below if you read any of these books or what did you read in March. I would love to know. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!